Hey friends, welcome to the Social Society. We are the modern-day marketing agency that has quite literally turned the branding world upside down. Over the past several years, we have been traveling the world working with trailblazers and industry innovators. But our secret is our team. We are about to give you the inside scoop into what we do and who we are. So get comfy, grab a drink of choice, and be ready for some mic drop moments.
Welcome back to the Social Society. We are talking today all about how to recharge your creative battery. Kyle's doing it right now. So this is an important topic, I think, because, you know, in order to continue to create, especially when you're creating like for other people, with other people, it's so important that you know how your creative battery works and how you can charge it efficiently and when you need to charge it, and just being conscious of what you need to do to keep it full so that you have the abundance of creativity rather than creating from depletion, which I think we've all felt at some point. So what do you have to say on this, Kyle? How do you recharge your creative battery?
I like to be around other creatives and seeing other people creating. One of my favorite places to go is the music studio with someone that I know. I know a lot of musicians in Louisville and a lot of singers. And so being able to go in a music studio with one of them while they're creating gives me a really creative boost. Or like recently going to that art show that we've talked about, Shepard Fairey, who's a big artist worldwide, was in Louisville doing an art installation. One of my favorite artists. Got to go and meet him and seeing all the other artists, being in that atmosphere, period. I used to, pre-pandemic, I primarily worked at coffee shops for that reason, because just you're a big energy person. You can feel when you're around other creativities and they are creating, you can feel that energy. And coffee shops are full of creating. Like everybody's in there creating something, right? Somebody's in there working on homework, but they're creating, you know, their short paper. Or you got a pastor in there writing a sermon for Sunday, and then you got an artist that's doodling in his book, and then you have all of these different, you know, maybe a photographer's editing. So that's kind of just being immersed around other creatives and being able to feel their energy kind of like raises my energy if it's been depleted.
I love that. See, it's really interesting. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I feel like I'm the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's, again, an energy thing or me absorbing someone else's ideas or like their energy. I actually have to like fully deplete mine. Like I have to go off on my own. Like I used to start this thing years ago where I would go to hotels and I called them like creacations or staycations. And I would go there by myself, just somewhere in Louisville, like somewhere local, just for at least 24 hours to be by myself and like let every stimulation go away, every energy of other people. And it was then that like the ideas would come to me. So it's really interesting. I think it's
the opposite.
Like to know how your battery works. Like it's so important, you know?
Yeah.
What about you, Melissa?
Well, it's interesting because mine is both. So one of my favorite things to do is meet another creative at a coffee shop and just talk shop. So sometimes it's not really bouncing around ideas. It's just sharing the common stories we have as creatives, as business owners. You know, just having that other person there that kind of understands, you know, what it's like to be a creative, what it's like to, you know, come up with new inspiration, new ideas, all the creative things. But then sometimes it's the opposite where I do have to go away, kind of like you were talking about, Haylee, and just have quiet. Used to be it was like a hotel, you know, when my kids were at home and I had a busy home. Now my home is very quiet. So now it's just like being home all day with nothing else going on and kind of decompressing. So mine's a little bit of both of those things. But something I miss that's changed a little bit during, you know, after COVID and all the things, is we used to have all these industry parties or industry gatherings in Louisville. And I don't know if there haven't been as many or if I just haven't been kind of plugged in, but that is something I really miss. That was so much fun when that was kind of like, I don't know, that was kind of the vibe a few years before COVID. Yeah. And I miss that because it's just sharing that energy is very inspiring and very like a recharge for sure.
So how do you know when you need? Like, how do you know when you need time away, and how do you know when you need to be around other people? Do you have a sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's when I feel tired, I just need to be home where it's quiet and kind of reground, you know, with my home, my husband, my family. But then sometimes it's like not really being in a creative rut, or maybe just really just needing that stimulation or company. Or just energy of other creatives, because there's really nothing like it. It's like on the way down here today, Haylee and I were having all these ideas, and it's just invigorating. It's like now I'm energetic to like, oh, we can do this. Let's do this. Let's, you know, shoot to manifest this client or this company. And it's like, it's recharging too, because now I have all these other things. I want to do this. And it's just sharing in that energy alone can be really recharging, I think, as a creative.
So I'm curious, how did you figure it out? Because I'm thinking even for myself, like, how do you learn what your battery needs?
It's the way you feel after.
Yeah.
You know, just talking shop with another photographer.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think experimenting for sure. And then that energy, I used to be an extrovert, so I wanted people around. So, and creatives, I remember even when my very first job as a creative, I started a thing. It was called The Gathering, but it was where creatives, I was working full-time at a church as their head creative, like over creativity, and I got all, you know, what if you would consider yourself creative, come to this thing. It was called The Gathering, and I would have like a guest speaker talk, and then but mainly it would just be a time of like where we could create stuff together, maybe, or just communicate, like because it's getting those people together. I think I found early on that I create my best work whenever I like, you know, I'm immersed in that. And then also if I'm creating other stuff that I'm not getting paid to create, helps me to be more creative as well. So the disco cow that I'm creating right now, or if it's a painting or anything that, you know, so if I'm doing something other than video and photo, then that helps me be more creative in video and photo too. I'm not going to elaborate on disco cow either. I'm just leaving that in there. They got to figure it out one day. Follow me and you'll figure out about disco cow.
I love it. I can't wait for disco cow. But that is a good point. I do think that is another thing that charges my batteries, is doing something different, like a different form of creativity. So, you know, whether that's painting, or like for me, like sometimes it's dancing, or like music, or trying new food, like, you know, just things that just kind of expand you in different ways. Decorating. I love decorating. I really do. Yeah. And so for me, that's like, you know, when you're trying to create in one way all the time, I think that's when you start to box yourself in. And just, you're right. I love that you said, like, not to monetize some things, you know, like just being like, okay, I'm just doing this for fun, just for me.
And we live in such a capitalistic society that it's hard. Like a lot of times we're like, oh, as soon as you find that you're good at a hobby, you're like, how can I make money off this hobby, right? You got to start the vinyl business on the side because you vinyled one cup. Yes. Like and sometimes you don't have to do that. It's good to just have something that you can just go do and say, you know, forget everything. I can lose myself in this.
Kind of remember why you started.
Me. Right,
and like how you felt before you were really experienced in your craft and in your career. Like, why did you do it? What made you hungry to begin with?
So good.
I still love my magazines. Like I always say that I got my education in InStyle magazine. It was obsessed in like bridal magazines growing up. I collected them. And like sometimes I like to just go buy a magazine and still look at the magazine. Just, you know. Yeah, you do. Just to be creative. I love my magazine still.
And I think being content, whatever form it's in, can be a huge form of inspiration and even fuel your creativity if you're being mindful of the type of content. Like a magazine, put down your phone and go pick up something like a magazine, or go to an art gallery, or Pinterest is a good place to just get lost. And, you know, because I think my Instagram is a really good feed for me for creativity because of the accounts that I follow. They're all, you know, the algorithm is kind of good for me right now to be inspired with good people. But so content, I understand it can be good.
So being conscious of your intake, right? Or like conscious of what you're absorbing. Yeah.
Or like travel, like our last day in Paris after we did the photo shoot. with Kyle and Amanda, we found this incredible cafe, and we didn't have very much time at all. It was like a cafe, museum, like, what would you even describe? Like, it had these sneakers and
Kith. It was Kith. It was the Kith, who's a big fashion designer. It was their store, and it was
amazing,
creative the way that things were displayed. We were so mad that we had to like run in and out. We were like, we could have spent so long in there.
But like places like that, just getting lost in culture and. Of course,
so
Paris
true.
is the most inspiring place.
Paris
New York
was,
City.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to New York now after feeling, because being
it.
around that creative energy, Paris had that creative energy. Everybody had style. Everybody. The houseless folk had more style than people that are write style blogs in America. So
we're now accepting applications for New York brand immersion.
New York brand immersion. Come on, I need that
we
energy.
Would create magic there.
Oh,
we will.
Yes.
Just being in that space and energy in that city is so inspiring. It was always my place. Like when my kids were little and I would visit my cousin in the city, I would wait for him to get off work. I'd fly in early Friday morning, get off work. He would get off work Friday afternoon. I would just sit there and just be there. Like, I wouldn't even go anywhere.
Yeah.
Just sit there and just take everything in.
I've
so
heard
much
of people
inspiration.
that go to airports and train stations. It was a podcast I was listening to a long time ago, a creative that said that they like to go to airports and train stations, and they like to watch human interaction because the human interaction in those two places is so different than anywhere else. And they like to just watch that, and that's a way that they refuel their creativity. I thought it was very interesting. He was a musician that said they do that.
We revolutionized the branding world with our private brand immersions, and now we are doing the same thing with course creation. In today's fast-paced world, it's more crucial than ever to diversify your income streams. And what better way to do that than by turning your unique expertise and ideas into a profitable online course? We now offer 3 done-for-you options to get that course idea out of your head and into the hands of your audience. Click the link in our show notes to book a call with our team and learn all about how you can start earning some passive income.
Is there a certain creative thing that you want to try out that you haven't tried out? Like, do you guys have like something that you're wanting to lean into more, or something that you've maybe wanted to try but you never have?
There is someone that I want to shoot with, and she's offering a workshop, so I just sent my deposit in a few days ago. And the cool thing about it is I don't know that she's done them before. I've kind of watched and waited, and I think that I'm the first person that signed up for it. It was an absolute yes for me, but her stuff is very emotion. So she's not got like a shot list of what we're going to do. It's on the Oregon coast, and it is going to be amazing. Everything she does is emotion. She does amazing self-portraits, but I just want to learn with her because there's such a strong emotional reaction to everything she does. And she does more than self-portraits. It's like relationship, even just her portraits of like one single subject is very emotion evoking. So that's something
That's powerful.
I haven't done. Like, I've studied with child photographers and wedding photographers, but like someone who just shoots in such a raw way. And I think that will be such a cool thing to bring back to
100%.
the social
So much
society.
of our work is emotion. You know, like our clients, we really do. They trust us, and they let us see their soul and their feelings, and I think we do a good job of capturing that. But it'll be really interesting to like hear what you bring back. So we'll have to do a follow-up episode.
I know.
Okay,
right. I can't wait.
I'm excited. And she's like somebody I've admired because she's so different than like my photos. It's the total it's just totally different. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. The Oregon coast.
Good for you.
Like,
and see, I think that's also a key thing. Like, as you're listening to this, like, invest in your creativity.
I
You
was
never know
thinking
enough,
at the same
right?
time. I was
and you're never
thinking that
creative
too.
enough. And like, it's really easy to kind of like, you don't mean to, but you get in that like, here's how my brain works, or
Yes.
here's what I'm seeing all the time. And being around other creatives, or just expanding even in your industry or your expertise, but like to see it from a different angle is like important.
I think that learning that your creativity will get depleted if you are not growing in your creativity very fast. You'll get stagnant, find yourself in a box, you'll hate life. And it's hard because it's very easy to get complacent, especially when you figure out what works, right? I know to use this, I know to use this, I know to do this. And it's easy just to do those things. But then if you're just doing those things, it'll be like, oh my gosh,
It's
I'm
like boring
so
sex
tired.
versus
Yeah.
shaking it up.
Right.
You have to learn and
You can't
grow.
just do the same thing over and over again, right, Kyle?
Right. You gotta.
Amanda laughed a little bit there.
Even if you gotta just make the lights red one time, I don't know, just switch it up a little bit.
But I mean, creativity, like, no joke though, it's life force, right?
Yeah.
Like, it really is connected to your sexual expression. It's all,
Yeah.
and I think, like, yeah, I don't know. I just went there with sex, but
Yeah, no, for sure. For me, something that I want to do is like I like to paint, and that's always been something but I like large scale painting. And I've made murals, and I've even done like graffiti style murals where I'll like do people's names, but I've always just used paint to do that, paint brushes. And I would really like over the course of this next year to like learn how to use spray paint in an artistic way, not like tagging graffiti, although I do like that expression of art as well, but like doing more like a large style mural where I'm using spray paint as the main medium, and like figuring out how the different caps make different flows of paint. And that's something that I'm really, really interested in learning. I've wanted to my entire life, so I'm getting old. My arthritis may set in, and I may not be able to push the caps here too long. So
I just use a different finger. You'll get creative again. Use your nose, you'll figure it out. I think for me, I don't know if it's something new. I just really want to lean into the design. Like, I do like physically like seeing expressions in my house and different things. So, I mean, I think a dream of mine or something I'm going to be creating is like, whether that's a rental property or an Airbnb, but I see it being very different. I see it being like a creative, evolving space that people can come in and like use that energy and like changing it up, changing how it looks, because just the act of design is something that I desire and enjoy doing.
And that'd be such a cool like thing to have,
It would,
to have like an Airbnb that's different every few 3 to 6 months, and then you get to come back when you're back in town. That's cool.
Well, and it's kind of like pays tribute to like, that's a big part of my journey, was kind of retreating off to spaces to create. So like creating a haven where people can come in and create, whether they're writing a book or recording podcasts or whatever that might be, and then having that space like evolve and change, I think would be something
We need that
I really
space.
want to do.
I love that.
If we have any
It's
investors
happening.
out there
It's so you.
Yes. Well, you want to draw a card?
yes.
Kyle, you get to draw.
Your turn.
Oh, I don't know if have I drawn a card? We'll
Oh.
have to go back on the tapes. I think I have one time on the pod. Yeah. Okay. Oh, what is your favorite book and why? This is a good one for creativity.
The Alchemist. hands down.
I was
Did I
going to
take
say
it
that.
from you?
Really?
No,
Y'all got the
actually,
same book. I don't think
that
I've
is
ever
not my favorite. It's one of my favorite. I have my favorite, but
That's
The
the first one that
Alchemist.
came to me. I'm sure there's more, but I think it was just a pivotal like moment for me, and like just that understanding of the nuances of life and listening to the omens, as they call it, and I love the way it's a story and it's not like a self-help book where it's like do this.
Oh, yeah.
it's an incredible
You would actually really like it, and
Oh,
it's like a
so good.
yeah, you should definitely
I'll
read.
read
So
it,
The
maybe.
Alchemist, maybe. I like how he's honest. I'll read it.
It's hard to
Maybe.
get me to read, so I want to be a
short.
reader.
It is a
and I
shorter
read a
read,
lot,
yeah.
but I can't read. I don't read books a lot. I read a lot of blogs. I read a lot of information on the internet, but it's hard for me to. Amanda always tells me, she's like, "You do read, you just don't read books."
Yeah.
So,
And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
Like know yourself.
Yeah. What,
Mine is The Power of Broke.
the Power,
Power
of
of
Broke. I've
Broke.
never read that book either.
Love
I
this
haven't
book.
read that book.
I love it so much. It's basically just stories of people and their success stories, and just how that power of being broke, or you learn more about yourself when you're hungry or you're in pain and you're broke.
Yeah.
So some amazing stories, and I read it at a time in my life where I got a lot out of it, and I got a lot of what's the word for it? Just got a lot of not grit. What's the word? Like,
Determination.
yeah, just a lot of energy from it to do better and be better. And I was at a time in my life where I could relate to it, and it really touched me. I've taken that book and I've bought it for people. I've shared my copy and bought another copy and given it away. And there's just a lot you can learn when you're not in the best place in your life.
It's a good one. Pressure's on, Kyle.
So 99% of the books I've read in my life were assigned to me to read as, for school or whatever. So
Which makes it no fun.
yeah, there's very few things that I've read outside of being forced to read this book. But the last book that I read that I couldn't put down was I Am Malala. Because I love her story, Malala Yousafzai. Or I don't know how to say it. So I love her story and how she came to America and everything that she overcame, and that was remarkable. But growing up, a book that I was forced to read probably 4 times in 4 different years of schooling, but was Lord of the Flies. And I just always loved that book, and about those wild boys and kind of how they were on this abandoned island and when all hope was lost, but they figured out a way to come together. And I just always thought as a kid that would be cool to be lost on an island with a whole bunch of kids. I don't know.
That would be cool.
And that book was just always one of my favorites growing up. So I don't know. I'm getting ready to read that Jay Shetty book though, so we'll see. Maybe that will come to the top.
I'm going to read
list.
that one too. Yeah. I haven't read that one.
There's a lot of good books.
Yeah.
I have a habit of starting them and then not finishing them. So I have a collection of half-read books.
Wherever you're listening to this podcast, drop below your favorite book so we
Yeah.
can check those out, because obviously I haven't read it.
Yeah, we could definitely post this in the stories. I'd love to hear different
Definitely.
book recommendations, because both of your alls I had never heard before. So
You've never heard of Lord of the Flies?
well, no, I've heard of Lord of the Flies,
Did you not read
but
that?
I don't know that I've read
I
it.
haven't
To
read
be
it.
honest,
I haven't
yeah.
read it. I've heard of it, but
I don't
haven't read
know
it either.
how. I don't know if it was just me in the programs that I was in and switching schools, but I feel like I read it 4 times in school. I feel like there was 4 years in a row where I'm like, this again? I gotta read this again? But
It stuck with you though.
it did. I always liked it. I've seen the movie. Indian in the Cupboard. That was another one of my favorites as a kid. I like that one. That's my favorite. That had to do with creativity.
I love it. Boom. All right. See you guys next week.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, let's move this relationship to the next level. The friend zone, baby. Head to the show notes and click the link to join our close friends list, where you will gain access to knowing where we are, all our adventures, and exclusive pop-up offers at locations around the world. Plus, we hold nothing back on our close friend stories on IG. See you there.